Get the Intel, the podcast meant for those of us trying to find out what the hell is going on in the field. Here we discuss tools, techniques, and approaches that you can implement to streamline operations and let you focus on your craft.
All right, it's Chad Gill here. I'm the host of the Get the Intel podcast, where I talk with leaders in contracting, management, and really anyone helping us do business better. This episode is brought to you by Workforce Recon. Workforce Recon is a project tracking software that connects the office to the field crews. Their app, Field Recon, is built with a field-first mentality. Developed by contractors for contractors, it includes time and asset tracking, messaging, job documentation, and scheduling all in one place. So if you're tired of finding out what happens days later, you can stay up to date by visiting us at workforcerecon.com. See your operations in real time. So joining me today for a check-in, it's been a little while since we've talked to Greg Owens. He's returning here. He's a longtime owner of McCarthy Painting in the Bay Area of San Francisco, because apparently nobody's from San Francisco. Everybody's from the Bay Area around it. So Greg, thanks for coming back, man. I appreciate it. And kind of anxious to hear how your year's been.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your podcast here. This is fun. I'd love to hear what you're up to, because I think the last time I talked to you, we were talking about concrete.
Still talking about concrete a lot.
We are, yeah. Okay, good.
We'll do that. Absolutely. I don't know if I'll ever get away from that. Certainly love it. So Field Recon, we started the podcast for that based on, it originally started out for the Field Recon software to grow that. And now it's become an offshoot of, since we talked, I've started my own business coaching program called Laminin and Laminin Coach. And that's really become, from an interest to a hobby to really just a dream job. It's really, really cool. And I love doing it. It's one of those things I could see me doing for a very long time. Hopefully.
Oh man. Yeah. How did you get into that? That sounds,
well, I think Adee Clevitt. She was with business. She does business process documentation, and she helped us document a bunch of processes, really the whole company of Concrete. And that was such an impactful thing, and the way she handled it. And then she and I just kept talking, and finally she was like, you should be a coach. And I was like, well, isn't that kind of the blind leading the blind? Because I'm asking you for an awful lot of help. And she's like, well, the thing is, most people don't know what they do know. They don't realize that what they know is not common knowledge. And I guess it's the equivalent of figuring out, hey, how come you're good at fighting? You're like, well, because I got beat up for 13 years, It's like eventually you learn.
Right.
And that's kind of the way it went. It was nice to be able to go to other contractors and say, hey, I've been where you are. I want to go the places that you want to go. And maybe I'm a step ahead in an area here and there, and I'd like to show you what it is, how to avoid that pothole, and get you there quicker, kind of take my scars and keep you from getting, scabbed up. And it's just been great because it's super fulfilling to be able to, and it's also good because a contractor can't look at me and say, no, you don't understand. I'm like, no, I totally understand. In fact, if you take a look here, I got this scar and it hurts like the dickens, and I'm just about done being sore, and I can help you avoid that. So, right. A hard year will teach you a lot of things like that.
Right. Well, and you and I are both in Entrepreneurs Organization, EO,
right,
which is a worldwide organization. It's like 15,000 members, and I think it was maybe 6 years ago, got involved in the mentorship program through EO, and in starting that program right here in the San Francisco Bay Area, having a mentorship program, but then also helping out on the global entrepreneurs organization scale, and becoming a facilitator for EO and facilitating mentorship launches, where a chapter would have a launch and they'd have all the mentors in the room and all the mentees in the room. And just like you, what you were just saying there, it was very fulfilling to do that kind of thing, right? Where you're really sort of impacting people's lives. And
is that different from the accelerator program?
It is. Accelerator program is for smaller companies, like companies, I think in order to be an accelerator is like, you have to have a sales of 250,000, be the owner founder. Right. And then they give you a coach, sort of mentor, to help you grow your business to 1 million and beyond. But the mentorship program is more about one-on-one sort of coaching relationships, mentor, mentee, from a business owner. So all the mentors have businesses, and then all the mentees have businesses. So there's that common ground, right? Yeah. It's kind of like our forum, right? Where forum you go to with your problems and your challenges and to a whole group. But, like in forum, inevitably there's somebody that has the same problem over and over and over again. And that person needs more specific hand-holding and time. And a mentor could be really, really helpful in that, right? Somebody that's been there, seen it before, done that, kind of like you were saying, that has the battle scars, and kind of say, hey, avoid these kinds of punches and you might do better.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. I don't know that we have one in the Richmond chapter, but maybe if only I knew a guy that could help me start one.
Yeah. Well, you guys are you're right near the headquarters for EO, so you could just
right down the street from. DC is where the headquarters.
Yeah, call them up, tell them to get it going.
I'm gonna find out what the deal. I've got that in my notes to check into now, because that's a great idea. I interviewed Warren Rustan a couple of weeks ago, and he described it as like 3 levels with when he works with somebody, and he says there's teaching, which is giving them information. Coaching, which is basically processes and procedures, and then mentoring is his favorite part, and it takes time to get there. And that's when you're actually helping somebody have a better life, better lifestyle, better, it's kind of, you got the other 2 under your belt to a degree or in process, and then now you can actually focus on things like, how do I balance my faith? How do I balance my family? How do I balance my giving, those kind of things, so that you can become a good whole person. And I was like, I think that's a great thing that a lot of us entrepreneurs have a hard time balancing. We call it, I have a group that I'm in called, faith and fortune. Can you have both? And then,
I like that. You have a meeting called Faith and Fortune?
We do. We're starting it's a religious small group, but that was the whole thing is, can you be an aggressive businessman, businesswoman, business person? Can you want to make profit? Can you want to grow and excel and drive and push? Can you do all of that and be a good, the good, the moral, the caring, the helping, to make the world a better place person? Or is it really full of rich takers and poor suckers? You don't want the world to be that, but you see a lot of that, a lot of news about it. But
right. And the media sort of portrays that in a lot of ways, right?
Well, yeah, your average good guy just doesn't create a bunch of newsworthy stuff to them,
Yeah. Well, look at I'm always surprised at how demonized Elon Musk is, right?
Yeah.
Right. He just did something here in the Bay Area that got him in a lot of trouble. He flew from San Jose in his private jet to San Francisco, and it's like a 9-minute flight, right? And and I don't watch the news or anything, but I heard people talking about this and talking about how that's so hypocritical of him. But at the same time, he's probably looking at it as like, well, that was like, I saved 40 minutes in a car. Right.
Yeah.
And then I needed the jet in San Francisco because I'm going to Washington after, maybe, who knows? But
yeah, who knows? Well, there's that one kid that tracks his jet that knows, but nobody else knows.
Right. Yeah, that kid's done well.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It does. It was like, do you find it hard to like how do you balance that? You're in a different place in your career now where you're starting to balance, we were talking about that a little bit too, but how do you balance life satisfaction versus business satisfaction? And do you find that one struggles to really kind of like jealous siblings, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think when we were talking before this, it was reminding me of when I was younger and really pushing hard to build and grow a lot of different things, right? And I think there was along the way some sort of realization for me that the bit. I want to have the business and I want to have lifestyle and be able to give back all.
Yeah.
Not, I can't say all equal. It's all in spurts for me. So like, it might be like a hard spurt of sort of charging in the company for a little while and then turn around and be like, okay, now I've got some breathing room and I can give back. But all the same time, I want to be every day, like exercising, meditating, and doing these other things that make me feel good, right? Which is very high in, I put it at a very high end level of importance. Because if I'm not working well, all those other things will fall apart for sure. Family will fall apart. My spirituality will fall apart. My business will fall apart if I'm not keeping this system healthy.
It is funny. I think a lot of us think that that you hear a lot of, well, I've got plenty of time. I'll get to that and I'll get to this, but you can run out of time. You don't really know how much time you have, and it doesn't have to be dark like that. It's just a matter of, those breaks are where you make breakthroughs, and that's. But it's hard to make yourself do it. Like I said, I want to work out this morning, but I got to dedicate an hour to working out. But I could make this progress at work. But how much more efficient am I at work because I worked out? And so yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, and it's not like if you just work out one time that you're going to feel the benefits of that. I mean, maybe you do, but I find that like having that commitment to working out on a regular basis. Same thing with meditation. When I look back on my life, when people ask me what has been some of the most impactful things, I usually it's meditation is high on the first thing, but it took years for me to figure that out. that was actually working well. And then lots of time of like before I look back on it going like have a better understanding of my thoughts, being able to allow things to sort of just experience them and then they drift away. That has been unbelievably powerful, right? Because it comes up in everyday life.
Yeah, I mean, the first time you try to meditate, you realize your mind looks like an Atlantic traffic jam. There's 1,000 things going in there, nothing's in control.
Right.
And then slowly you can get that thing down until, eventually it's just a quiet road and you watch things go by.
And even things like pain, right? Like you'd be sitting there and I'd be like, wow, my knee's really hurting. Oh man, it's excruciating. I'm just going to give it 10 more breaths and then I'll move. 10 more breaths. That's it. I can handle this pain for 10 more breaths. And then inevitably, like 90% of the time, I forgot what the pain was or what I was like, I don't even remember that was something that I was going to do because my brain went somewhere else. Right. And you just realize like nothing's permanent, especially thoughts. Yeah. Thoughts are
right. Like to get on through but it is hard. It's hard not to latch on to one and let that eat you up. And
right. I see it with some of my employees where if a client calls and they're super upset and they're we broke something or did something that energy really matters to my employee, right? Like that could make it so that they don't sleep well that night, and they really hang on to that conversation, and they really hang and like, what could they have said differently, and why did they say it like that? And they're sort of really stressed out about that, and it can really impact their lives greatly. And having the ability to sort of realize like most those are just thoughts, and it's not matter like this, this tabletop matters, right?
You want to be caring and you want to be empathetic, but you don't want to be. You can't pick up and carry everybody's monkey on your back,
Right.
It's
a great book, Monkey on Your Back. Yeah.
Great book, great song. Yeah. It's like, oh man, so of the last year, so you done any, like, what are like big key moments from your last year? Anything where you're like, oh my gosh, man, we broke through on something?
That's a good question, because I don't really think about the past much at all. It's so far behind me, all of it, right?
It's not until April. In April, I think about the past year a lot. So I'm filling out tax forms.
Right. Yeah. I think we're doing our taxes now, unfortunately. It's very interesting to me in this time and space that we're in, sort of this post-COVID. I don't watch the news, as we were talking about earlier. And so I don't really know what's going on, but I do know that, like, I was on a call right before this, and 2 people on that Zoom call out of 9 are just getting over having COVID.
Wow.
Right. And in the last month, I've known more people that have had COVID personally and have had employees having it or clients having it than all of COVID combined. Right.
Yeah.
Like personally knowing like another call and it's like, oh, this employee just turned positive. Right. And so that crew is not going to be working for the next week or so or more. Right. And how do we navigate that? And it's interesting to me to see that so much stuff that I used to take for granted, on like, if you call an insurance agent about your workers' comp, they get back to you sort of really quickly, right? But now it might be 3 or 4 calls before you get an answer to your questions, right? And it seems that way with everybody, like my tax accountant, my dentist, my dental hygienist. I had to change my appointment, and they're like, okay, we've got you down for January now. January, right? I used to go 4 times a year. Now it's going to be, I have to wait till January to get my next one.
Oh my gosh.
Because they're so overwhelmed and understaffed, right? It's interesting time. I feel like it's like we're on island time now. The whole country, right? The whole world's on island time. And we forget that there's like this war going on, right? There's a major war going on in the Ukraine, right? Like they're still fighting over there. America just kind of forgets. We were into it for a little while, and we're like, oh, this is going to last too long. Like, move on to the next thing.
Well, we'll send some money and call it good.
Some money. I think it's
a big amount of money.
Yeah.
You would think if we sent the money in the beginning, maybe they just would have said, we'll split it and call it even. Won't even fight.
I don't know much about many things, but I have my prediction about this war is going to change the face of the earth more so than 9/11 did.
Oh, wow.
Because of all the amount of money that every single government is dumping into their military budgets right now, especially over in Europe, right? But even with China now rattling their guns and that kind of thing, and everybody's like doubling, tripling down on their military spending, and that's going to it's just going to change how our society big time, right?
Yeah, it's throwing some different information, and you talk about Elon Musk. I mean, how cool is that? He puts a bunch of satellites over there so they can have internet. Like, man,
yeah, I know. Like, you can
not like Elon Musk.
A CEO born. I mean, he's American, but he was born in South Africa, immigrated to America, and then he's like, I'll turn on the internet for a country that's at war. Right?
Yeah. Like, hey, by the way, I'm just gonna give you guys internet. The country.
Right. Yeah. And it's satellite. So you know that they're using it for all kinds of, that's incredibly impactful. It's satellites too. So I'm wondering if he's giving them like vision too.
Yeah. And like,
oh, here, by the way, this is where the Russians are.
Yeah, exactly. Just saying, I mean, we didn't make Google Maps, but we made it available.
Right. Right. In real
the Russians
time.
are in there. The Russians are like using Waze to figure out how to get to the capital. You're like, oh man.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. But no, it's COVID changed a lot of stuff. COVID opened a lot of doors. I'm one of the people who I would say that COVID, we moved we moved our son from public school to private school because public school wasn't open and he needed to be in person. And so that was a huge blessing on our family because he's thriving. I mean, he's doing a great job. It's been awesome. So I have a hard time not being thankful for COVID. I mean, it opened up it changed the landscape of construction for us too, because it used to be you had to be on every job. You've got to have a project manager there. We got to have site meetings. We got to have all these. And all of a sudden we figured out, that we could do virtual meetings and we could handle most of the stuff. Do it. We handle good drawings, good communication. Suddenly construction took a whole different format when they're like, hey, we can only have 7 people on the property. So if you don't have to be here, don't be here. And we changed our business model based on that. And it's been a really good thing for us in that side too. So a lot of good came out of it. And then I do find a few people here and there like, like COVID became the catch-all excuse for everything. It's like, man, I got, trash guy. Hey man, this trash can's got a crack in it. Yeah, COVID. I'm like, I'm pretty sure trash can doesn't have COVID. But maybe. I don't know.
I was telling you that like we had a client, we had two painters that got COVID when we couldn't work on a client's house, right? And then the client calls and like he comes back from vacation. We had sent him an email, but he comes back from vacation. He's like, not much is done on my house. And we're like, yeah, I remember we kind of told you we had COVID. And he's like, oh, you're using that COVID excuse. it was like,
what? I mean, it's really COVID.
I've thought of using the COVID excuse a few times, but the reality is we had 2 painters that they had COVID, man. Like we don't have like another crew we can just pull up. We're booked out.
But now everybody's so fatigued. They're like, well, just keep their ladders 6 feet apart. Put them on either side of the building. We'll be fine. Like,
yeah, thank God they were good. My employees, they were, and the client's fine. He was just bitching. Yeah. He was upset, right? Like, and he's just thinking about his needs and how he needs to get this project done for his, I don't even know what.
Yeah, it's like it's a different array of problems. You're like, hey man, it's like, if I could just get my windows cleaned at my beach house. You're like, I don't know if that's a huge problem. You shouldn't tell people about that problem. Yeah.
So you've been killing it with the podcast here. Warren Rustan, you've had a lot of heavy.
It's again, that's through EO. So I've been super fortunate to be able to get introduced to people to talk to, and people are, they're really, really good, especially the EO group in general is so giving of their time. Then you're just like, hey man, I'd just like to talk to you and say, how are you doing what you're doing? We're working with, the bad thing is, I end up having to hire half of these people because, the interview with Wendy of Content Bacon. They're a content marketing company.
Mm-hmm.
And, talk to her about how content works and those kind of things. She's an EO member down in South Florida. And then we end up having to hire her. I mean, I'd say I have to hire her. I don't have to hire her to get the interview.
But during the interview, she convinced you that they're worthy of hiring.
Exactly. I'm like, yeah, go on it. It's frustrating because you just find it. And that's, I would say in the last year, that's been the biggest change in my concrete business is we committed to the idea that there are people who are good at thin slivers of, I think of layers of a cake. You want a really good cake, but there's all these little layers in there. And it's like things where, I have an executive assistant and she's amazing. And, she would hate to go give a presentation or hate to do a podcast. It'd be hell on earth for her. She's like, no, that's not what I'm into. And me, I have zero interest in putting together a task management program, but she is phenomenal at it. So
it's a task management program.
Oh my gosh. So that one is pretty huge. So what I was running into is I'm not good at holding people accountable. And I either am overly critical about something because I just remembered it and it was super important to me, or I don't give clear instructions of exactly what I want done and those kinds of. There's a skill to delegating, and I've had to learn that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not good at this either. Like one of my greatest strengths is I like to give people tremendous amounts of autonomy. Right, which is cool. I mean, you get a lot of autonomy working for me. The bad side of that is that there's less accountability, right?
Right. And you have to figure out the difference between delegating something means I've got something I want done and I can give you a reasonable and defined outcome that I want, and how you get there that's where your freedom is. Or then there's abdication, which means I'm just going to put out a basic idea of what I would like to have, and you just go off. And then when you come back, I'm going to complain about it. Like that's what a lot of people think delegation is, and that's not. So we created a task. It's basically just it's a company-wide task. So we use a product called ClickUp, and
I've seen it advertised at the on the airport.
It's awesome. We became a partner of ClickUp and stuff like that because we liked it so much. So we set up and we have individual boards. And so, I have an operations board, I have a sales and marketing side, I have a content board. Everything I do is now within ClickUp. And the idea is there that when we're talking and do stuff like that, there's a to-do, it goes into ClickUp and everything has a description, a due date. And then Emily keeps track of, because how many people, and this happens to me a lot, you ask somebody to do something and it's really important to you when you ask, and then you forget to go back and figure out if they did it, and you don't remember asking them, and then later they show up with a result and you're like, oh, I kind of forgot about that. That's bad. There's no great, they don't get a lot of worth out of doing a task you forgot you asked them to do. So this tracks all the things that you want to have done, and they keep progress on it, and then they can show you, hey, there's a KPI you can build there. And it's like, hey, man, 78% of my tasks get completed on time. And, 95% of them get completed. And, but a few of them are behind. Okay, well, it's pretty good. Let's work on that. Let's figure out where the issues are. So it just makes it a lot easier and a lot more objective when you're doing performance reviews and stuff like that. So, task management, that's been huge. It highlights people who either don't know their job or are not doing their job, but it also highlights people who are doing a great job, who have more capacity or more desire and those kind of things. So that's been pretty instrumental for us as a company, putting that in play. Now, to the degree that that's one of the things that we now do for other people, because it just seems to be that important to us.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that's nice. We've been using Trello, but it doesn't have the same level of doesn't sound like it has the same level of accountability aspects to it as ClickUp.
Yeah, we were using Trello before, and it's bad. The reason we chose ClickUp over Trello is because we had Trello, and I wouldn't go check the Trello boards.
Yeah, that's my problem too.
It had nothing to do with Trello. May be just as good. I don't know, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't drawn to Trello to go and check it every day. But in ClickUp, I go, and that's where I start and end every day.
What do you think is the draw to why ClickUp has been more? Trello is just an app. ClickUp's just an app. You're just clicking on the button and going to it.
It shouldn't make it. I think
intuitiveness is something that, like, if a program is more intuitive, I tend to enjoy using it more, right? And I've noticed this. I don't know. We moved to QuickBooks Online, right? And I don't have to go into QuickBooks that often, but I do need to go in there every once in a while, and I want to check on things, right? And I was familiar with. I was part of QuickBooks back when it was like DOS, right?
Back when it was just books.
We're talking before internet, right? Like it was just on a computer. Yeah, it was just called Quicken at that time, right? It was for personal, but we used it for business. But anyway, so I know the program and everything, but the online version is not intuitive at all. Like at all. There's so many things that I'm just like, why would they make it so, like, I'm trying to click on something and it's not working, and then I realize, oh, you have to click this other thing, right? And it's just like, it's not intuitive, right? And that's what in a lot of ways makes the iPhone so popular, right? There's this, your grandma can use it, right? She can pick it up and start using it right away. So I'm assuming that's
shakes it and it does something. You're like, what does that do?
So you must have found something more about ClickUp that's more intuitive.
Yeah. You can actually make ClickUp look exactly like Trello with the cards and the columns.
Mm-hmm.
But what I loved about it was when Emily set it up the very first time, here's a list of all my employees, like a spreadsheet, almost a list of employees down the side, and underneath each employee are all of their tasks that have been assigned and due dates and a progress thing that tells me how far along in the progress they are. And you're like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. I want to see. And then I could go to my own board, my own little personal board. And here's the list of everything that I'm supposed to be doing today. And and in priority. And so it was really good. And we started a process, and we try to get our clients to do this too, is like at the end of every day, the last thing you do at work is, with me, it's with my assistant, is she gives me a phone call and asks me a couple of questions. What was your win for the day? Did you get everything accomplished you wanted to? How close to your schedule did you stay? And then what are the three most important things you need to do tomorrow? And that's the time in the day when I best know what the three most important things for me to do tomorrow are. I find that you sleep a lot better when you know that you've told somebody what they are, and they're going to be in that ClickUp board. So tomorrow, if I don't do anything but those three things, well, I know I'm going to get 15 things done a week. And before then, there was a lot of weeks I didn't get 10 things done.
So Emily's kind of holding you more accountable.
I don't want to give her too much credit because she's going to want to get paid more. But
she's going to listen to this and be like, I deserve a raise.
Oh, no. Yeah, she is a star player for sure. There was a lot that I tried this 3 or 4 times before, Emily, and what I learned is, I would say a third of it is the person you get. You need to have a high quality person to get high quality results. But 2/3 of it is you could clone Emily and put Emily with another person and it not work at all. And I think that is because the person that is getting an assistant has to be really mentally ready to do and turn over and it's not letting go. It's like the first time I tried it failed because I had a lot of internal guilt about saying, I don't want to delegate something I don't want to do to somebody else. Well, it turns out the things I don't want to do, some people enjoy doing. The things I want to do, people don't enjoy. So
yeah, that's a valuable lesson right there. I had to go through the same process, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. And then the other one was, this is an employee and I don't want them doing personal things, but it doesn't feel right to ask an employee to do something personal for me. But an executive assistant is a different animal. It's a different position. And the idea is they're there to make Greg's life easier and more focused, therefore making him more valuable to McCarthy Painting. And if that means she's going to call the dentist and rearrange your dental appointment, because that 20 minutes could be spent with you trying to explain to a client why your crew with COVID couldn't paint, then that's better use of your time. And that's more effective and profitable for your company. And so people have to get over that part too.
Yeah. And I find that trying to teach that to employees how to delegate gets really tough, because I hear the same thing over and over and over again, where they'll say something like, well, that's going to take me, she's going to ask a bunch of questions. It's going to take me an hour. I can just get it done in 15 minutes. Well, yeah, great. That one time. But this is an ongoing, reoccurring task. Why wouldn't you want to delegate it to somebody that's eager to do that ongoing, reoccurring task, right?
When we get when I have a client who's reluctant to it, and a lot of times I ask them, particularly all my clients are subcontractors. I mean, that's what we do. It's the only thing I know. So when they ask me, like, man, why would I do that when I can just do it myself? I'm like, well, if the world worked that way and it wasn't the most profitable way, why wouldn't general contractors just do everything? Why aren't all plants like the first Ford factory? Rocks are going in one end and cars are coming out the other, because it's more efficient for us to all do what's our sweet spot and have a combination. And 1 and 1 and 1 equals 5, not 3. That's when you can get, where you can make a lot of headway. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard to give that up. Sometimes you're just happy to be busy. I do run into that a lot. People are they don't want to do it because they take pride in how busy they are.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I have a house up in Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, which is, it's about 3 hours from here. It's a beautiful part of the country, right? If you ever get a chance, you should go. But and I go up there to go skiing or to enjoy the summer and that kind of thing. And I haven't been up there for a while, and there was a bunch of grass that was like 4 feet high and needed to be cut because it's fire season. Well, it's California, so we're in fire season all the time, but I needed to get it cut. And so I started making phone calls to get some people in to cut it, because it's not a good use of my time to cut this, because I got a lot going on, and I couldn't get anybody quick enough. Right. And then the people I could get quick enough, they were charging what I thought was going to be way too much money. It was like $1,000, let's say. And so, but then I couldn't get them quick enough anyway, right? So I was like, well, damn, I'll just grab the weed whacker and I'll do it. And it took me like 30 minutes, and then it took me a few hours to rake it all up, right? But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was like it was like hard work. It was labor. It was it was hot, and I even got like the chainsaw out, and chainsaws are super fun to work with,
Oh yeah.
They're crazy dangerous. You can cut something off, and I think that's part of the fun for me. But there was something really rewarding at the end of the day. I could just look back and see this work that got done, right? Like, and yeah, and I was like, and it took me all weekend, and I was like, I don't know, I've got so much other things going on that could help impact my company and help impact some of the nonprofits and other things that I'm working for. And I chose to do this with my time, right? But at the same time, it was fulfilling and rewarding. So it's interesting. Yeah.
It is nice. It's one thing like cutting grass, or for me, when I was a kid, we were cutting hay and stuff like that. But there's not a lot of, when you get to run in a company and you get to different levels in a company, there isn't a lot of days you get to turn around and look at and say, see that right there? I did that.
That's what I was thinking, because so much of what I do right now, and there's buildings we paint or rooms we paint, I never even see them, right? Like, I don't get even the satisfaction of seeing the before and after, right? And there's something satisfying about seeing, like, this is the thing that I just did.
And I think people get hung up on that. They get, it's addictive because there's progress, and you're like, yeah, but you got progress and you got movement, but are you going in the right direction when you're doing it? Then you got to balance that, and that's tricky. It is hard to deal with, because it's very rewarding to look at your yard and go, I cut that. But It is not rewarding to come home and go, God, I still got to cut that.
No, yeah, that's a big. I remember my dad used to complain. My dad was a fireman, but he used to complain all the time about having to cut the grass. Right. Yeah. And it was always like, got to get home and I got to I got to cut the grass again. Like, and we're talking like 20 years of complaining about cutting the grass.
He went on to start a turf company.
No, he didn't. He didn't think that way. He was a firefighter in the Bronx for 30 years. And so he didn't necessarily think of like, just like hire somebody to do that. Money was tighter too. So there was that consideration, but he could have just got goats or something, though.
He got goats in the Bronx.
No, this is upstate New York. We were about an hour away from the Bronx, close enough that you can commute, but there was 3 acres of grass to cut. So
holy cow, that's a lot of
it's a lot of grass. That's a lot.
The street value of that grass? No. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you're headed out for another meeting and stuff like that, and I appreciate. I love catching up with you.
Yeah, we didn't even get into some of the stuff that I wanted to chat with you about. Like, what is this phantom note taker you got going on here?
Oh, that's another neat tool that we use now. It records, and then so you record your Zoom meetings, and then as you're going through the Zoom meetings, you have these little it's like a little I'm looking at it, but that's not helping you at all. It's a little menu bar that has things that say, follow up, insight, possible action, definite action, things like that. And you click it, and then you see your video, and you have a little timeline on it, and it shows where I did, hey, make sure you go back and follow up here, or this is where we talk about it. Like if we referenced a D Clevitt, it'll have that in there and say it's a referral. So I'll know to go back and say, hey, we talked about you in this podcast, and give it a listen or something like that. It's
damn. Yeah,
so when you deal with clients, you can say, hey, if they're talking about a change order, you can click it and you can say, this is the place where we started talking about a change order. We started talking about the price, or we started talking about,
right.
Right. You don't have enough errors that you have to have an item for it, but you can.
And then how is your app going? I know we've talked about it. You kind of showed me a demo, but it sounds like that's even bigger now. than it was before?
So we went forward and then we went backwards. We brought in 2 partners, and then it didn't kind of go the way we wanted it to go. So now it's back to being just me. And then right now I'm just kind of in a holding pattern. I use it mostly for my clients, and we tailor it to whatever they're doing.
Right.
And I've just started focusing a lot on my coaching. I really, really enjoy the coaching. Then we build the app out, and then it's kind of one of those things that, yes, I think it's a great idea, and I'm going to grow it. And it's just, priorities, trying to make sure, it's one of those ones you're just like, oh, I still got it. It doesn't make a lot of money, but it doesn't cost any money, and it helps my clients do their work. So it's beneficial that way. And I'm always fine tuning it.
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe this fall, or when it starts raining here, we unlike you, we have a rainy season.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny, right? Because like I grew up in New York, where it's very similar to your weather there. It's just all summer long, any day it could rain, right? Like in the afternoon, a lot of times the clouds come in and it starts raining, and you have to really consider that as a seasonal business. But here we're super seasonal, that I don't even look at the weather forecasts, because every day is practically the same from like May on to into October, right?
Yeah, I've worked in San Diego for a few months, and I don't even know why they have weather people there.
That's even better, because they only get 4 inches of rain a year. We get close to 40 inches, unless we're in a drought year. Then I think we only got like 20 inches of rain last year. But it's all in sort of like December, January, February, something like that. It's all winter months. So when I get to slow down and relook at systems and processes and all that kind of stuff when it starts raining, which is kind of nice. It's like farmers.
Yeah, exactly. When the combine goes away, you'll start figuring out how to fix your truck.
Yeah.
Well,
cool,
great, man. I'd love to. I'm going to get back with you here after this, and I have to ask you a little bit about this mentorship program. My luck.
Oh, right. Yeah. We only touched on it.
There is one in Richmond, and I don't even know it. That's going to be embarrassing, but it won't be the first time.
I don't remember if there is. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So I still do like mentorship launches. I'm going to do one for the Austin chapter and the Arizona chapter, I think, this year.
Great. Yeah, I definitely want to learn more about that.
It's right up your alley. I think you did enjoy it, or another way of giving back, and take more time away from you that you currently don't have.
Got plenty of time, man. Got the same amount of time as everybody else.
Right. That's so true.
New ways to use it. That's great, Greg. Yeah, man. Let's catch up. We got to get you back out on the East Coast here for a little while, man.
Right. Yeah. No, I love Richmond.
I'm building a house. You can come over and, I'll go cut your grass in Tahoe, and you can come paint my house. I'm sure that seems like a fair trade.
Fair trade. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Get the Intel. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.